Before your breakthrough, God will show you these signs. Let me tell you something. Before the blessing, before the breakthrough, before the dream becomes a reality, God will show you signs. But listen, they won't always come wrapped in comfort. They won't always come with clarity. They won't always look like what you imagine. But they're signs. First sign, disruption. When God is getting ready to elevate you, He will disturb your peace, but not to punish you. No. He's waking you up. That discomfort you're feeling, that's not by accident. That's divine disruption. You're not restless because you're failing. You're restless because you're growing, because what used to satisfy you now feels small. That's God saying, you're not meant to stay here. There's more. Disruption signals growth, not failure. It's one of the clearest yet most misunderstood signs that something is shifting in your life. When we think about moving to the next level, when we pray for breakthrough, when we ask for elevation, we often expect it to come with ease, clarity, and comfort. But the truth is, before anything significant happens in your life, there will be a shakeup. Things that once felt steady, solid, and secure will begin to feel unstable. Routines that once brought peace might suddenly feel restrictive. The people you used to align with may no longer understand you, and the places where you once felt at home might start to feel foreign. This disruption is not a sign of failure. It is not a sign that things are going wrong. It is a sign that you are being stretched, pulled, and pushed into something greater. See, growth never happens in comfort. You can't expand in a space that's too small for you. And God will not allow you to remain where you are when He knows what He has placed inside you. That divine calling, that purpose, that potential, it demands more. But before you can step into more, the old has to break, the familiar has to shift. Disruption is the vehicle God often uses to move you from where you are to where you're supposed to be. It is His way of making sure you don't get too comfortable in places you were only meant to pass through. When your spirit starts to feel uneasy, when your heart starts to long for something different, when you feel a divine restlessness, that's not failure. That's not confusion. That's a sign that growth is at your door. But let's be real. Disruption doesn't feel good. It can come through unexpected change, like losing a job, facing rejection, or walking through heartbreak. It can come through closed doors, through prayers that seem unanswered, through situations that test your patience and your faith. In those moments, it's easy to feel like you're being punished or forgotten. It's easy to doubt your path, to question your decisions, to wonder if you missed something along the way. But understand this, disruption isn't designed to destroy you, it's designed to develop you. It is in those moments of pressure, uncertainty, and discomfort that you are being shaped. Just like a seed has to break before it grows, just like gold has to be refined through fire, you too must endure disruption in order to evolve. Think about it. Every major shift in your life likely came after something was shaken. That job you thought you'd have forever, when it ended, you found something better. That relationship you thought would last, when it ended, you discovered yourself. That plan you were so sure of, when it fell apart, you found a path that aligned more deeply with your purpose. Disruption has a way of revealing what's real. It strips away the excess. It exposes what's not working. It forces you to confront what you've been ignoring. And in that confrontation, you gain clarity. You see things for what they are. You begin to understand what truly matters. You grow. Now, growth is not just about achieving more or having more. It's about becoming more aware, more resilient, more aligned with your calling. Disruption forces that kind of growth. It interrupts your routine. It challenges your assumptions. It asks you to let go of control and trust something greater. And that trust, that surrender, is where transformation begins. In the middle of disruption, you find out what you're made of. You learn to adapt, to persevere, to believe even when nothing makes sense. You build faith not because everything is going your way, but because you know that something greater is on the other side. Sometimes God allows disruption because He knows if He doesn't, you'll settle. You'll stay in situations that don't serve you. You'll cling to comfort zones that limit you. You'll choose safety over purpose. So He shakes things up, not to hurt you, but to wake you up, to get your attention, to remind you that you were created for more than just surviving. You were created to thrive, and thriving requires growth, and growth requires change, and change requires disruption. So when the ground beneath you starts to shift, don't panic. When things fall apart, when plans fail, when doors close, don't see it as failure. Don't see it as punishment. See it for what it is, a divine sign that something is happening, that growth is in motion, that you are being prepared for the next level, that what once worked is no longer enough, and God is calling you into new territory. Disruption is not the end. It's the beginning of a process of stretching, strengthening, and shifting, a process that is necessary for you to become who you were always meant to be. Growth will cost you comfort, it will cost you familiarity, it will challenge you to rise above fear and step into faith, and disruption is the doorway through which growth walks in. So embrace it. Learn from it. Let it mold you. Let it push you to pray harder, to dream bigger, to act bolder. Let it refine your vision and reset your priorities. Let it remind you that you are not stuck, you are being shaped. You are not broken, you are breaking through. Disruption is not failure, it is a signal that you are on the edge of transformation. It is the evidence that God is moving, even when you can't see it. Even when it feels like everything is falling apart, trust that everything is actually falling into place. Isolation is preparation, not abandonment. When you find yourself in seasons where the phone stops ringing, the invites stop coming, and the people you once relied on start to disappear, it's easy to feel like you've been forgotten. You wonder why the support you gave isn't being returned, why the love you showed isn't being reciprocated, why the energy you poured out is no longer flowing back to you. That silence can feel like rejection. That solitude can feel like punishment. But it's not. That space, that stillness, that separation, it's divine. It's part of the process. Because before you step into a new level, you often have to walk alone for a while. There are some things God wants to show you that can't be revealed in a crowd. There are some lessons that can only be learned in solitude. There are depths of your own spirit you'll never reach when you're constantly surrounded by noise, by distractions, by the opinions and expectations of others. In isolation, there's clarity. In isolation, there's reflection. In isolation, there's space to hear, space to heal, space to grow. It may feel like you're being left behind, but what's really happening is you're being set apart. Not every season is meant to be shared. Not every calling is meant to be understood. And not everyone is meant to go with you to the next place you're heading. In those quiet places, when the crowds fade and the applause stops, that's when you start to see what really matters. That's when your motives are tested. Are you doing it for recognition or for purpose? Are you walking this path for approval or for destiny? Isolation strips away the extras. It reveals what's in your heart. It exposes what you've been leaning on that's not sustainable. Sometimes God allows people to walk away, opportunities to dry up, connections to dissolve, not to harm you, but to make sure your foundation is Him and Him alone. Because when everything else fades, when it's just you and God, you learn to trust at a deeper level. You learn to depend not on the external, but on the internal. You find strength you didn't know you had. You discover peace in the absence of noise. There's a preparation that happens in isolation that can't happen anywhere else. It's in those unseen moments, those unnoticed days, that your character is built. It's easy to perform when people are watching. It's easy to shine when the lights are on, but who are you when no one's around? What choices do you make when there's no audience, no applause, no validation? That's where true growth happens. That's where integrity is formed. That's where purpose is refined. The world celebrates results, but God values the process. And often, the most significant part of the process happens in isolation. In that quiet space, you begin to understand yourself better. You see your flaws, your fears, your doubts, but you also see your strength, your resilience, your potential. You start to realize that you don't need the crowd to feel worthy, that your value isn't tied to attention or affirmation. You find a confidence that isn't loud but unshakable. You develop a vision that isn't influenced by trends or opinions. You begin to walk with intention, not for show, but for purpose. And all of that happens in the stillness, in the separation, in the sacred space of isolation. Sometimes the weight of your calling requires solitude. Sometimes the preparation for your breakthrough demands focus, and focus requires the removal of distractions. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to absorb their energy, their doubts, their fears. It's easy to get caught up in comparison, to start measuring your journey against someone else's timeline. But in isolation, you're forced to run your own race. You're forced to look within, to seek answers not from the crowd, but from your Creator. And in doing so, you become anchored. You become grounded. You become prepared. Preparation isn't always glamorous. It's not always exciting. It often looks like repetition, discipline, sacrifice. It looks like long nights and early mornings. It looks like saying no to good things so you can say yes to the right things. It looks like walking away from what's comfortable in pursuit of what's purposeful. Isolation gives you the space to do that. It gives you the freedom to realign, to recalibrate, to return to your why. And that why is what will sustain you when the journey gets hard, when the obstacles feel overwhelming, when the temptation to quit feels strong. There's a divine strategy in isolation. It's not just about being alone, it's about being alone for a reason. Just like an athlete trains in secret before the competition, just like an artist sketches in solitude before the masterpiece is revealed, you are being prepared behind the scenes. And that preparation is critical, because when the door opens, when the opportunity arrives, when the breakthrough comes, you won't have time to get ready. You have to be ready. Isolation ensures that when your moment arrives, you're not overwhelmed by it, but prepared for it. You're not being abandoned, you're being refined. You're not being overlooked, you're being equipped. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. There is purpose in the pause. There is meaning in the stillness. There is power in the quiet. The world may not see it, others may not understand it, but you know that something is happening. Something sacred, something significant, something necessary. And it's all part of the process. Opposition increases near breakthrough. It's one of the most challenging truths to accept, especially when you've been putting in the work, staying faithful, doing everything right, and suddenly, instead of things getting easier, they get harder. Instead of doors opening, more seem to close. Instead of peace, you're hit with pressure. Instead of support, you face resistance. It can be frustrating, even disheartening, to feel like you're moving backward when you've been striving to move forward. But that resistance is not random. That pressure is not pointless. It's a sign that you are closer than you think. The enemy does not attack what isn't a threat. When opposition shows up in force, it means you're approaching something significant. You're on the edge of a shift, and the resistance is a last-ditch effort to stop you from crossing into it. There is a spiritual law at work here. Pressure often precedes promotion. Before every elevation, there is a test. Before every breakthrough, there is a battle. It's in those moments of increased tension that your faith, your resilience, your commitment are tested. It's easy to believe when everything is going your way, when the path is smooth, when the results come quickly. But when obstacles rise, when delays stretch on, when doubts creep in, that's when your belief is forged. That's when your trust in the process is refined. The opposition you face is not meant to break you, it's meant to build you. It's a sign that you're being shaped into the kind of person who can handle the blessing that's on the other side. Opposition can take many forms. It can be external, people doubting you, criticizing you, blocking your progress. It can be situational, doors closing, plans falling apart, opportunities slipping away. And it can be internal, fear, anxiety, self-doubt, weariness. Each form of resistance is designed to make you question your path, to tempt you to turn back, to convince you that maybe you're not meant to succeed. But the truth is, the presence of opposition is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to keep going. Resistance is often greatest at the point of breakthrough, because the closer you get, the more intense the pressure becomes. Think about it. When a woman is about to give birth, the labor pains intensify right before the delivery. The struggle is fiercest just before new life emerges. There is something powerful about pushing through resistance. It develops character. It sharpens focus. It builds endurance. When you face opposition and keep moving, you prove to yourself and to the world that your purpose is greater than your pain, that your vision is stronger than your obstacles. Every time you resist the urge to quit, every time you rise above the criticism, every time you silence the doubt, you are declaring that you are committed to the outcome, regardless of the struggle. That kind of determination is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. It's not talent alone, not connections, not luck. It's the ability to withstand resistance and press on anyway. There's also a refining that happens in the fire of opposition. Resistance reveals what's real. It exposes what you truly believe, what you're really made of, what you're willing to fight for. It burns away the superficial and brings clarity to your mission. In the heat of the struggle, you discover strengths you didn't know you had. You tap into reserves of courage, discipline, and faith that would have remained hidden if not for the pressure. The fire doesn't destroy you, it purifies you, it gets you ready. Because not every breakthrough is just about reaching a goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry the weight of that goal once it's achieved. Opposition also serves another purpose. It keeps you dependent. When everything comes easily, it's tempting to think you've got it all under control, that you don't need help, that you can handle it on your own. But when resistance hits, when the path gets rough, you're reminded that you can't do this in your own strength. You're reminded to seek guidance, to lean on faith, to stay rooted in something deeper than your own abilities. That dependence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's in the moments of struggle that you learn to surrender, to let go of your own agenda and align with a greater plan. And in that alignment, you find strength beyond your own, resources beyond your reach, favor that you couldn't have earned. The resistance is real, but so is the reward. There's something waiting on the other side of the opposition that makes the fight worth it. And the very fact that you're facing resistance is proof that you're moving in the right direction. If you weren't making progress, if you weren't on the verge of something meaningful, the opposition wouldn't be necessary. The intensity of the battle is confirmation of the importance of the breakthrough. The greater the resistance, the greater the purpose. The greater the pressure, the greater the promise. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Opposition is a signpost. It's the universe letting you know that you're on sacred ground, that something significant is just ahead, but only those who endure will reach it. Only those who refuse to be intimidated by resistance will taste the fullness of what's been promised. So when the pressure mounts, when the battle rages, when everything in you wants to give up, remember that this is part of the process. This is how greatness is forged. This is how legacies are built. This is how breakthroughs are born, through the fire, through the fight, through the resistance that increases right before you step into everything you've been working for, hoping for, praying for. Confirmation comes in small divine moments. We often look for big signs, loud signals, dramatic revelations to let us know we're on the right path, that our prayers are being heard, that our efforts are not in vain. But more often than not, the signs don't come in the way we expect. They come quietly, subtly, in moments that might seem ordinary on the surface, but carry a weight that speaks directly to your spirit. A conversation with a stranger that feels too timely to be coincidence. A passage in a book that echoes the very thing you've been wrestling with. A sudden peace that settles in your heart when everything around you is still uncertain. These moments don't shout, they whisper. And in that whisper is confirmation. In that whisper is a reminder that you are not alone, that you are being guided, that something greater is at work. When you're pursuing something meaningful, when you're striving toward your purpose, there will be times when you feel unsure, times when the path ahead looks foggy, when progress feels slow, when doubt begins to creep in. And in those moments, you may not get the breakthrough immediately, but you will get a sign. A small sign, just enough to keep you moving forward. It might not make sense to anyone else. It might not be visible to those around you, but you'll feel it, you'll know it, because it will align perfectly with what you needed in that exact moment. That's divine confirmation. That's the universe. That's God. That's your higher calling nudging you, saying, keep going. Don't stop. You're on the right track. These small moments are sacred. They are moments of alignment, moments of reassurance. They don't always come when you want them, but they come when you need them, and they come in ways that are personal to you. What might seem like an insignificant occurrence to someone else could be a powerful confirmation to you, because God knows how to speak your language. He knows how to reach your heart. He knows what will get your attention, what will bring you peace, what will give you the strength to keep moving forward. So it's not about waiting for a lightning bolt from the sky. It's about being present enough to notice the gentle rain, the subtle breeze, the quiet voice that speaks truth in the midst of noise. It's easy to overlook these moments when you're focused on the big picture, when you're chasing goals, working hard, trying to make things happen. You can miss the beauty of the process. But confirmation doesn't always come in the outcome. It comes along the journey. It comes in the form of small wins, in the people who show up at just the right time, in the way doors open when you least expect them to. It comes in how you feel deep in your soul, even when your circumstances haven't changed yet. That inner knowing, that sense of calm amid chaos, that renewed energy when you should be tired. That's confirmation. That's evidence that you are being sustained by something beyond yourself. Sometimes the confirmation comes in the struggle, in the fact that you didn't give up when it got hard, in the fact that you kept showing up even when it didn't make sense. That perseverance, that tenacity, that's a sign that you are being strengthened for what's coming next, that you are being refined in the fire, not consumed by it. Every obstacle you overcome, every fear you face, every challenge you rise above, that's confirmation that purpose is alive in you, that destiny is working through you, that something greater is unfolding even when you can't see it yet. There's also confirmation in the peace that doesn't make sense. When everything around you is uncertain, when the future is unclear, and yet you feel a quiet confidence rising within you. That's not by accident. That's not just optimism. That's divine. That's the kind of peace that surpasses understanding. That's the kind of peace that can't be manufactured or faked. It's a gift, a signal that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, even if where you are doesn't look like what you expected. That peace is not a product of perfect circumstances. It's a product of alignment. Alignment with your purpose, with your calling, with the path you've been chosen to walk. There will be times when confirmation comes through people. Someone speaks into your life without even knowing what you've been going through. Someone encourages you with words that speak directly to your situation. Those aren't random moments, those are divine appointments. People placed in your path to deliver a message, to remind you of your worth, to reinforce your direction. Pay attention to those encounters. Pay attention to the people who show up just when you need them, who say the right thing at the right time. That's confirmation. That's a reminder that you are being seen, that your journey is being guided, that your steps are ordered. Confirmation is also found in your own growth, in the way you respond to things differently now, in the way you've learned to let go of what no longer serves you, in the way you've stopped needing approval from everyone else to move forward. That internal shift, that personal evolution, that's not just progress, that's confirmation. That's proof that you are becoming who you were always meant to be, that you are not who you used to be, that you are moving, even if it's not always visible from the outside. You don't need everything to be perfect to know you're on the right path. You just need those small, divine moments that speak to your spirit, that anchor your faith, that remind you of your direction. Those moments are the thread that weaves through the chaos, that keeps you connected to your calling, that assures you that what you're doing matters. They are the quiet echoes of a promise that is still alive, still active, still unfolding in your life. Delay is not denial. That truth can be hard to hold on to when time seems to stretch longer than expected, when prayers go unanswered, when doors you've been knocking on stay closed. Waiting can feel like rejection. It can feel like your efforts are wasted, like your faith is misplaced, like maybe you heard wrong, hoped wrong, believed wrong. But just because something is delayed doesn't mean it's been denied. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There is a difference between no and not yet. And that space between your desire and its fulfillment, that space called delay, is where your character is shaped, your trust is tested, and your purpose is refined. Delay is uncomfortable. It messes with your sense of control, challenges your patience, and often exposes the very things you need to deal with before your breakthrough comes. When things take longer than expected, your true motivations come to light. Are you in this for the applause or for the assignment? Are you chasing a goal or pursuing a calling? Delay forces you to dig deeper, to search for substance beneath the surface. It's in the delay that you learn endurance. And endurance is what carries you through seasons when passion alone won't sustain you. In that waiting period, everything in you may want to quit, to walk away, to settle for something easier, something quicker. But delay has a purpose. Delay is a filter. It sifts out those who are merely interested from those who are truly committed. It exposes who's willing to keep going even when the rewards aren't immediate, even when no one is watching, even when the progress feels invisible. Delay separates those who want to be seen from those who want to make a difference. It builds perseverance, and perseverance is a prerequisite for purpose. Sometimes delay is protection. You may think you're ready, but God knows what's ahead. You may feel prepared, but there are things coming that require a version of you that has been through the fire, through the grind, through the discipline of waiting. If you receive something before you're ready to handle it, what was meant to bless you can break you. Delay ensures that when the opportunity arrives, you're mature enough, grounded enough, wise enough to steward it well. It's not about withholding, it's about refining. It's about developing the strength, the humility, and the vision to carry the weight of what's coming. Delay also cultivates appreciation. When you've had to wait, when you've had to struggle, when you've had to push through disappointment and frustration, you don't take the breakthrough for granted. You understand the value of what you've received because you know what it cost. That gratitude fuels responsibility. It fuels intention. You won't waste what you waited for. You won't take lightly what you fought to it. Delay deepens your sense of purpose because you realize that the process is just as important as the destination. In the delay, you are being prepared, but something else is also being prepared for you. There are people, places, and things being aligned behind the scenes. Timing is everything. A breakthrough given too soon can do more harm than good. There's a rhythm to life, a divine timing that ensures everything happens when it's supposed to. Delay doesn't mean you've missed your chance. It means the right moment hasn't arrived yet. And when it does, everything will fall into place in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. The right connections, the right opportunities, the right doors, they all come together at the appointed time, not a moment before. Delay teaches surrender. It teaches you to let go of your timelines, your plans, your need for control. It humbles you because it reminds you that you are not the master of the universe, that some things are beyond your understanding. And in that humility, you find peace. You learn to trust in something greater than yourself, to believe that there's a plan unfolding even when you can't see it clearly. Delay requires faith, and faith is forged in uncertainty. There's something powerful about being able to wait well. Waiting doesn't mean inactivity. It doesn't mean you sit and do nothing. It means you keep working, keep growing, keep showing up, even when the results aren't immediate. You stay faithful in the process. You keep sowing seeds, believing that in due time the harvest will come. And it will. Not on your schedule, the one that ensures maximum impact, the one that ensures lasting fruit, the one that ensures your breakthrough doesn't just come, it stays. Delay reveals your foundation. It shows you what you really believe. When everything is delayed and there's no guarantee of when or how it will happen, do you still have hope? Do you still trust the process? Do you still move with purpose? That's the test. And passing that test prepares you for what's next. It sets you apart. It qualifies you for greater things. Don't despise the delay. Don't let it convince you that you're being overlooked or forgotten. Don't let it make you settle for less or walk away from your purpose. Embrace it as part of the journey. Use it. Grow in it. Let it shape you into someone who's not just chasing a breakthrough, but who's ready to sustain it when it arrives. Delay is not the end. It's the middle. It's the space where you are transformed, where your faith is deepened, where your purpose is clarified. And when the breakthrough finally comes, you'll know it was worth every moment.